about now? How's that sound? Oh gosh, why do you echo now? You suddenly echo, like really badly. Wait, what happened? Did you not check? We're supposed to be professionals.
Professional comic artists. We're not professional live streamers.
You had it in monitor mode still. No wonder you were suddenly echoing like really bad. I was like, what happened when I changed scenes? Okay, you'll have to tell me if the volume's better now. I cranked both of us up. Yeah, no, I think we're okay now. Are we good? I think we're good.
I think we're good. I think we're good now.
Chat, otherwise, I'm gonna assume that we're good.
I think we're okay now.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, if obviously if anyone's like, bro, your audio is jank, you know, you just let us know. Make adjustments.
Yeah, just yell and shout.
In the chat.
And I can Hey, introduce yourself while I drink my water.
Oh, I see how it is. Hi everybody. I'm Torin, the 3D artist who works on Swords and Roses. One half of the dynamic duo. And my co-host here is Arrow.
Hi.
He is the primary
You didn't have to
character.
introduce me.
Oh, I'm gonna, of course I am. He is the primary character artist and writer.
Yeah, hi. So, if you guys caught our behind the scenes, Torin does all of the 3D environment set design and just 3D in general. Because you take care of like texturing and all of that stuff too. And then you do like the basic lighting path for me.
Hey,
Oh,
Arrow.
apparently the music's too loud.
Arrow, yeah, I was gonna say you should crank down the music because it's real loud.
See, this is why it's great to have people telling me that I'm bad at my job.
Oh no, music is awful. No.
Okay, there. I like super cranked it low. Now it probably doesn't exist at all.
Yeah, right. The music probably is gone completely now.
Yeah, that's always the way it is, you know? I think what's really confusing though is the fact that like because we're streaming from your computer, but I'm the one running it, is my mic is now labeled your mic and your mic is labeled my mic.
Yeah, and isn't it great?
Yeah, no, I'm not losing my mind. It's fine.
Mm-mm.
It's great,
Definitely
honestly.
not. No.
You're
So-
a little loud, maybe.
For anyone who's wondering, basically, Aaron and I were putting together like the stream setup and everything today, and we realized that for Arrow's work, she didn't want to update her OBS software. So she asked me to set up the stream on my computer. So I did, got it all ready to go and whatnot. And then we were like, oh no, we're going to echo really badly from being in the same room together, working in the same office. So I went to a separate room on the laptop, and that is where I am streaming from.
Correct.
So, yeah.
Normally we work in the same office, like back to back. We're, I don't know, like 3 to 5 feet away from each other.
It's a small office.
Yeah, which obviously is not very conducive to this.
No, not very conducive to audio clarity,
Yeah.
unfortunately.
Can't tell if you're too loud or if you're just eating your microphone.
I could be eating my microphone.
I can't tell. I'd like, cause sometimes you're like super low and other times you like super peak.
I don't know what to tell you, man.
Just don't like deep throat your mic and it'll be fine. So hi, this is us.
Unapologetically gonna be ourselves. Sorry.
Right. Yeah. We don't have to be professionals like we are at work, so expect the crazy. I'm assuming that the audio is better now because no one is saying otherwise. So I think we're good.
Yep.
Unless somebody yells at me again, and then I will fix it once more.
Yep. I want to say hello to Rachel because I believe she's probably one of the only people currently with us
Yeah.
at the moment.
Howdy.
Hi.
Let's see. What did you want to start with? Did you want to start with going through from the announcement? What are you thinking?
Yeah, well, so the new chapter is going to be live any second now, right?
Oh, yeah. Actually, you're right, because we're like 20 minutes late.
Yeah.
Dinner happened.
Dinner
That's
happened.
fine now. Heck yeah! I did it. I nailed it.
Good
Nailed.
audio? Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Okay.
guess.
Yeah, no, we had dinner late, and so that was part of the reason we're a tad late, but it's fine.
Yeah, we were running around like crazy. A bunch of things happened today all at once that
Yeah, it's true.
caused us to run a little late. So, but yeah, no, I vote. It's gonna So the new chapter is now up. So I vote we just read it right now.
The new one?
Yeah, and
Sure,
then we
yeah.
can go back and we can talk about everything that's happened with the last 10 chapters, and we have a little Q&A thing at the end. That we're
Oh
gonna
my
do.
gosh, your account is gonna be the first one that likes the chapter.
Oh yeah.
Stolen. Fight me. Okay, yeah, we can start at the end. That seems very odd to do, but I mean, if that's what you want us to do, we can.
No, I think.
I thought we would like build up to the end, but no, we can start at the end and then work.
Yeah, well, that was the
backwards.
plan until we got started 20 minutes late.
Yeah. Okay, so do you want me to read it, or do we want to just talk about how we made it?
Why don't we skim through it once so we get the story of it, and then we'll go back and we'll talk about all the chapters kind of as a bunch. Do you want to do that?
Okay. So do you want me to read it out loud? Which I can. You give a thrilling
Nah.
performance. I'm not
I don't
doing
know.
voices,
I mean,
though.
what do you feel comfortable doing?
I mean, I don't mind reading it like a book, but I'm not doing voices. I'm no voice actor. I'm just an artist
Yeah,
who writes books. So I can read it like a book if you want,
sure.
or we can just scroll. But yeah,
Or we just scroll.
okay.
Why don't we provide live commentary? I like
Live
this
commentary?
scene, by the way.
Yeah. Me too. I love his drumming fingers. It's such a little thing, but it's so like, and I've got the sideways mouths, which I love. I love those. Those are so fun. And then they interrupt each other.
Yeah, I appreciate the just the art in general.
At the finale?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, the art's so good in the finale comparatively to like the beginning. It's crazy.
Right.
It's funny because like when 10 chapters ago when the
Right.
finale started, I was like, oh, this art's kind of meh, and it's still good, don't get me wrong. It's just I was used to like this art, like
Yeah.
where I was now 10 chapters later.
Yeah.
And and so I was like, wait, why does this not look as good as I remember it?
That's funny. Oh. They're adorable.
It's so funny how big it is on like the
PC versus the phone.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. On the phone, it's so small that like you can't see all of the like painted details. Like on PC, like I'd like to think it's a really pretty comic that like looks really good on PC and looks fine on the phone, but like I think it really shines on the PC.
Yeah. I think with the highlights that you do on the characters and the way that you blur the backgrounds, I feel like you still do a pretty good job at making like the mobile version look clear for the most part with what's going on.
Oh my gosh, I loved these panels.
Yeah.
These were so fun. I like stuff like this that's more like symbolic, you know?
It's a tricky balance because like from a storytelling, like visual storytelling perspective, some symbolism like that can be really powerful. But yeah, it's tricky because symbolism by its very self is not explicit, has to imply meaning. So it's a tricky storytelling mechanism. But I think it was done pretty well here. what you did.
I love this part because it's a callback to
the bonus chapter.
The bonus chapter.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's really fun. There's so many sparklies in her eyes in this one.
Yeah.
You can't really tell on the phone, but like on the PC, you can see that I sparklied the absolute crap out of her eyes because I was like, no, she has to be like magical cat looking into the heavens.
Yeah, looking into the galaxy.
Yeah,
Galaxy
yeah.
Eye Cat. Yeah.
Just to sell how cute and absolutely adorable she is.
Yeah. Signature rack focus. Very nice.
Yep. I love the rock focus. Whenever I get to do it, it's really fun. I also love this panel. It's just like a one like call out panel that's like super fast, but I don't know. It's really cute. And she looks so pretty in this panel. I don't know. I really like that one. I know it's a random panel to think is pretty, but I do.
You know, it's when you say it's funny because like most people obviously, don't get to like hear you talk about your comic much and like your characters. But we've had, obviously a bunch of conversations about the project and whatnot. And Arrow's always expressed that one of the most challenging things when drawing both of them
is the most challenging thing. Like, if you were to ask me, like, who's harder to draw, Ambrosia or Alder, my response is making them both look equally attractive. That's the challenging part, is making sure that neither one of them is more attractive than the other in the panels. They have to be equally as attractive. So like if one of them is starting to outshine the other, I have to go back and like tweak it.
Right.
It's like a relatively new development too. I'd say like the later half is when once we came back from hiatus, I think that's when it started, and it's only gotten worse. I love this shot. It's super simple, but I think it's really pretty. And shows off your environment really well.
Thank you. And yeah, I mean, like, I feel like the software does a good job with lighting, which makes things look pretty easily, which is nice.
Oh, I mean, I relit this whole thing.
Yeah.
After I get it from you in your basic lighting pass, I relight everything. Just during the finale, though. I hadn't done that before. And then for the finale, I started relighting things. And I just never stopped.
I think one of the coolest things you started doing during the season is that you use the rim lights on the characters, the yellow versus the blue rim lights.
I know you love those.
Well, I think it just adds such, like, it's a simple thing, which I'm sure takes, you can tell, everyone how much work that takes to add that to the characters.
So much more time, dude. It's just way more time.
But
it's an entire another pass. It's like literally another day's worth of work to do.
Yeah.
It's not easy.
But it makes the characters look so much better. And in many shots, it implies a lot of the lighting that isn't even realistically there. It's just like for clarity's sake and it's a ton of clarity, and I think it adds a lot of style to it personally.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's fine to do it if you want to flat everything, so I get that day back. Torin, my unofficial, begrudging flat artist.
I help with some of the flats. Sometimes. Not often.
When I, like, desperately need it, you'll step in. But other than that, you're like, no. Hell or high water, no. Like, because this is all wood, it was really hard to make it feel like there was a door here. Like, it was closing. Yeah. That was something that, like, I had to, like, because the handle's, like, way down here. So I purposely, like, put her behind it and then did the little, like, close thing. And I feel like it makes sense. And, like, now, obviously, she's not behind it and her arm is out. But it's, like, process of elimination that you figure that out. But, like, the original design of it was, I don't know, like, because I wanted it to be, like, her closing the door as she leaves. But what I didn't count on is so much wood behind her that, like, you can't tell that there's, like, the edge of the door here and then the other door is right here. Does that make sense? So you can't tell that these are two. This is in focus and this isn't because it's just all one. So I was like, oh no. So what I did instead is I just like tucked her farther behind the door so that way, and then like wrote the little like close and open so that way it would make more sense.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yep.
Struggle bus.
Struggle bus. The struggles of the buses.
Also, she looks beautiful in this shot. I just want to say, I think she looks so pretty. There's certain panels that I feel like she just glows. Also, this is another panel that I feel like, I don't know, is really pretty. Right? Keeping them equally as attractive. Perfect example. When I was inking this, I finished this panel. I'm like, wow, she looks really pretty. So then when I got to this panel, I'm like, this is a harder angle to draw. So I struggled with this one to make it equally as attractive as the panel above it.
Yeah.
Yep. Mm-hmm. I love this part though.
Yeah. Oh. And someone's conflicted.
Conflicted? Alder? What would give you that idea?
He's not fundamentally conflicted or anything.
Nope.
Nope. Of course, Ambrose is like, I'm gonna be a sweetheart, right?
Right?
And then immediately afterward, Alder's like, no, I've gotta play the tough card and pretend that everything's fine.
How dare you pity me? You are taking pity on my emotions and respecting how I feel? How dare?
I don't think it's quite that aggressive, but he's...
No, it's not. But he's just like...
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
That's
just
not quite the vibe. It's
embarrassed.
just funny.
Yeah.
Like, oh. How I feel is not normally validated. I'm fine. Everything's fine here. You know?
We're fine. I'm fine. How are you?
Yeah, like the Star Wars line. It's pretty much, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I love the like closed door and then the wump of her like jumping onto the mattress. I don't know. I think it's cute. And then
There's more of that symbolism.
yeah. I love the like little emotion, like the little movements between panels, because like when I'm doing this, right, I'm thinking like an animator. So like when you're speaking sincerely, a lot of times people will like tilt their head, you know what I mean? Like it's a pretty common mannerism.
Mm-hmm.
And so like when she's looking at him, like I won't think any less of you. She's like even-eyed with him, and then when she's sympathizing with him, she like tilts her head forward. I know it's like something small, but I like thinking of those sort of things, like when I'm animating, quote unquote, the panels, is
Right.
like how the characters
Posing.
are like, yeah,
Body
moving their
language.
way through the scene. Yeah.
Yeah, so for anyone who doesn't know, it might have missed the detail in our behind-the-scenes chapters. Arrow and I actually, were kind of like what you could call traditionally trained in animation at a university level. That ended up not being really our careers that we pursued financially, but it is what we do, for as like our passion. So a lot of the terms we use very much are pulled from that kind of vocabulary of like animation and that kind of background.
Yeah, if you guys have any questions, feel free to put it in the chat. I've got my chat open here on the side, so I can see it.
Same.
Because if I start using terms, I apologize. I just automatically do it.
We have so many conversations between the two of us that we don't sometimes realize how far down the rabbit hole we are.
So far down the rabbit hole.
Wait, there was a rabbit hole?
Right? Anyway.
I just live here now. I don't know what you're talking about.
I live in the rabbit hole. Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah.
I love this panel. This panel was an idea from forever ago that I was looking forward to illustrating for like months. Was this panel, and I kept thinking to myself, I'm gonna cheat. I'm gonna skip ahead, and I'm gonna illustrate it early. And then I kept being like, no. know. Like, you'll get to it when you get to it. And, like, I had to do so many action poses. Like, so many action shots that I was just, like, devoid of romance that, like, I got actioned out, like, pretty hardcore. And so I was like, please, I want to do something cute. So I did, like, a really, like sketch cheap version of this. And I didn't have, like, the 3D camera or the 3D reference or anything for it. And I was like, no, I've been looking forward to this panel for so long. I want to do it right and, like, do it correctly and not just, like, you know, just draw it myself. So I waited, like, a good doobie all the way to the end. And then when I finally got to this chapter, I skipped all the way to the end and did this picture first. This was the very first panel I painted for this chapter because I had waited for months to get here, like a good person. Is that ridiculous?
I mean, yeah, but understandable, you know?
Dude, there's so many action poses. Like, we'll go back and we'll go through them, but, like, I like drawing action and I like drawing romance. Those are my two favorites, which no one is surprised about because that's what the comic is. But, like, when you do only one mode for months on end and you're, like, doing 4 chapters a month instead of just 2, like, you get burnt out so fast to just be like, oh my gosh, I just can't anymore. Like, and that was around the time that I had to draw the dragon, and I hadn't drawn the dragon since the beginning, and I was like, oh no, what if I completely, like, muck this up? So, like, my anxiety was already high, and I wanted to cheat so bad and get to this panel, but I didn't.
Patiently
But I love
waiting.
this shot.
Yeah.
Yeah. What about you?
It's really good. I think it's a great encapsulation of the current state of their relationship, which is that they both obviously care a lot about each other, but they don't really want to push it to be anything more right now yet.
There's, like, a softness that's like, we care about each other, and that's fairly obvious.
Yeah.
But, like, there's, like, a comfort in that relationship.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Yep. Well, they've been stuck together for 5 years, you know.
It's true.
It's pretty understandable for them to be, like, you know, at least comfortable around each other and not really awkward. You know?
No. I mean, yeah, but more what I was getting at is, like, they've gotten to the point in their relationship too where it's like Blue obviously was pushing it earlier, Alder pretty hard, and it's like this whole sequence is very much like Ambrosia knows Alder so well. She, like, calls him out when he's being, like,
when he's being closed off in a grump.
when he's being closed off, and she knows to just, like, shove through his, like, hard shell and be like, no, I know you need this, so we're gonna just do this. You know what I mean? Like, there's, like, a comfort here that's, like, being understood, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting.
I think that's something I really like about this whole sequence.
In
Like,
some
culminating
ways,
with this shot, because it feels like an end to that, like, thought.
Yeah.
You know?
Absolutely. I mean, if you think about it another way, like, in some ways, like, Ambrosia's proven that she has no problem going after the thing that she wants, but she does it in a very kind way, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
In a way that understands him.
Well, yeah, like, even the setup for the finale, right? He was like, I'm not putting you in danger. And she's like, well, you won't be putting me in danger by myself, right? Like, she still, like, caveats her plans to cater to him, but, like, she's still making decisions for herself, you know?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. She's trying to be conscientious of everyone around her.
Very
She's
much
just
so,
that-
yeah.
She just seems like that type of character.
And that's the last panel of technically the season. Without getting into the, like,
Come on.
epilogue? I think this next section is an epilogue, but I just put it all together in one chapter because it's super short.
Yeah.
You know?
Do it.
The funny thing is when I read this, I obviously know what's gonna happen, but the way that this is framed, it's like, oh, is she gonna walk in to, like, where they are? But then it's not, and you're like, wait, Leoric, you know? I don't know. I think it's a cool, like, snap that it's like, oh, wait, this is not about, like, cute anymore, you know?
Yep. Contrasting tone.
I do that a lot. I like that, though. I like shifting really hard. I love this shot. It's so good.
I think it's hilarious because in the same chapter of like two characters being like, you know, like very, you know, very classic
Cute.
romance story and cute together.
Mhm.
Contrasted by literally like, oh hey look, there's some type of weird blood seal on the ground in the cave that they didn't see earlier. Whoops.
Right. And for those of you that are in the live stream, you know, this is here. Just throwing that out there.
It's a thing.
It's a thing, if you recognize it. Which, I don't know if you've caught this by now, but I hint pretty hard, and then I pay off, like, chapters later. It's kind of a trend. So, like, the whole thing with, like, Blue being glamored as Alder didn't pay off until right now. Like, the chapter before this.
Yeah, right before this chapter. Yep.
Yeah, where he, like, yells at Blue for kissing Ambrosia on the cheek. And, like, being very not Alder.
Yeah.
I love doing that sort of stuff. That it's like something, like towing something through the story, like pulling on threads. So you should recognize this.
Yep.
From somewhere else.
Well, exactly. Well, I mean, like you do that before. Like there was you know, the bites on the victims, right?
Right. On the vampire.
Yep. Indicating that the vampire was feeding when he got the opportunity that no one was around. Fact that you know, there was like the bat familiar, you know, in the shadows. One of the first nights they were there.
There's also the smoke cloud with the first bear fight.
Right.
That's the same misty teleport that he uses in the fight with Alder.
Yep.
So that's in there too.
What else was
there's
there?
Quite a few things.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, there's Blue and her glamoring to be somebody else, and then she can glamour as Alder.
Right.
So the first time we see that, and then I use that trick again for the bears.
Yep.
So.
And then there was the fact that every time Blue talked about how upset she was that like Alder left their old group, she's like holding on to her left arm. Or like when Ambrosia comes up to talk to her, where she's like, "Hey, we're gonna go camp out in the woods. We just want to let you know." Blue's looking down at her left hand and it's shaking. You know.
Yeah. No one has commented on that either, so it's fun that you brought that up.
I mean, like, yeah. But
yeah,
that's the type of story we enjoy, and that's the type of story I'd say both of us enjoy creating, and you enjoy writing. So
I was gonna say, I mostly write it, and then you just like nod and be like, yeah, that'll be good. Yeah.
I like to think I give a little feedback. Yeah, but you are the writer out of the two of us for sure.
Let me think. There was something else too. Oh, Blue's swords. During the flashback, you get to see what swords that she has, and then when she's glamored as Alder, she has her swords, not his.
Not his. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So I think there are more. Oh, the vampire in the book.
Oh yeah. Here, do you want to pull that one up? Because I don't think anyone caught that.
Yeah, this is the end. Just so you guys are aware, we have like a little afterword.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's the end of season 1 officially. So
we're gonna go look at some other chapters and talk about other chapters from the last finale. But before we do that, do you want to show them the book? Yeah, show them the book.
Yeah, I can show you the book. That's the first Pale Moonlight.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, this is the part where with the shaking hand that you were talking about.
Oh yeah, another hint.
There it is.
Yeah.
That this is her magic hand that's not, you know, it's cast, it's not physical.
Right, exactly. There we go.
Yeah, she opens the book to vampires. No one noticed this. I thought it was so funny that I was like, I'm literally telling you it's a vampire and what his weaknesses are. There's right here. So and I have vampire spellcaster here. The strongest of vampires is they are magically adept and very intelligent, which he calls himself a sorcerer.
Yep.
So yeah, literally the top level of vampire, and I tell you guys it's coming. Like, I don't know, when was this chapter?
Chapter 20.
This is chapter 20.
Yeah. And
we figure out that it's a vampire in 25. So 25, 26. So yeah, 5 chapters beforehand. that I'm like, hey, it's a vampire, but like I can't tell you that. I'll just show you the page.
I love how he immediately like turns the page, be like, no, it's a fae.
Yeah. I love that. Like the very next, he like sits down next to her and scoots up, and
You
everyone's
distract
like,
the audience
oh.
with cuteness.
I was just gonna say that. I love distracting the audience with cuteness and being like, hey, look, it's cute, and then you totally forget like all of the important information I just told you. Yeah, and then he flips the page to fae.
Fae.
Oh my gosh, I'm so devious, I swear. So, yeah, it was kind of funny. Good times indeed.
Okay, so we should
Alright.
probably start looking at the finale.
Yeah. We can go to Man vs. Monster.
Yep.
Okay. There's still secrets in here that no one has commented on that I don't want to talk about yet, but just so you guys are aware, like there are a lot of hidden things that will come back in season 2 that I have sprinkled throughout the finale. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Trigger warning. I love this. Can I just say the fact that this chapter just straight up starts with Alder, like, no hesitation, grabbing a knife and just straight up whipping it right into the eye, straight in the forehead, and is unafraid of hitting Ambrosia. Like, that is talent. That is, like, confidence.
Yeah, right? Just straight up, like, friendly fire? What's that? I got this.
Yeah, he doesn't doubt himself. I mean, and he nails it, you know?
Yeah. Exactly.
Rose's little sweat drops.
Yeah.
I love how people are like, is she still, like, charmed? And I'm like, she's sweating, dude. What do you think? She's not charmed. She's terrified.
Oh, this is a good one where the vampire just rips it out of his forehead and he's like, yeah, whatever.
I love the, like slurpy noises. You know what I mean? Where, like,
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I love that.
Yeah. You know, there are so many little bits and details that I don't want to talk about just right now because, like, I know they're going to be relevant later. But just let's just say your design work that you did on the vampire was pretty solid. I enjoy the little details.
Oh, thank you. I do too. I can't really talk much about it, but yeah. There's a lot of things in here that I feel like how I write is like building a like, I don't know, like a house. And you start with a foundation, and then you use the foundation in so much of the house for like structure, for studs and stuff like that. That I feel like that's how I write a story, which is why the beginning for me is always the hardest part, because I have to like make the foundation, and then from there you just keep pulling. You know what I mean? Like you can build so much on top of it. Like I know a lot of authors and other like creators have said like that the middle is the hardest part, and to me I'm like, the middle is my favorite part. Like I love the middle. I like the end as well, but like the beginning for me is the biggest challenge, because I have to inform the audience of so many things that I can't like pull strings yet, where at this point like I feel like I'm firing on all cylinders, where I feel like I can pull from like the book and like the bear fights and like so many like seeds that I've sown that I can start like cultivating a garden out of it.
Yeah.
Oh, we have a question. Are there any main webtoons or animations that inspired your work?
Yes, absolutely.
You want to go first?
Well, I mean, like, I'm assuming we're talking about specifically this comic in Swords and Roses.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah, Arrow and I have had long discussions about things that we wanted to incorporate, or elements or themes or things like that, and you know, I know it's for some people, they probably just, you know, read this and they're like, it's just, you know, it's just a web comic, it's whatever. But for us, you know, I like to think we take this pretty seriously, and like I said, you know, a lot of.
What's your inspiration? Come on.
All right, fine, I'll get to it. Well, I mean, we're a big fan of some of the really good, Disney content, like classic Disney animation. There's a real respect for like the artists that work in that,
Yeah.
and DreamWorks. But I would say that there's also a lot of respect for like things like anime. There's a really great anime called Snow White with Red Hair, which is very much an adventure story. It's action, adventure, romance. It's a little bit more heavy on the romance than what we enjoy, but I would say that that's a pretty big influence on this.
Yeah, that's another thing that I really enjoy, for sure. Yeah.
What about you? What would you say is one of your biggest influences for this?
For Swords and Roses?
Yeah.
Well, other than, and I mean, I've hinted at this before, that like a lot of Swords and Roses world design comes from a very popular tabletop RPG
role-playing game that shall not be named because they did things recently that nobody's happy with.
Yeah. Oh, someone says they love that anime. Heck yeah, Snow White with Red Hair needs to come back for season 2.
Yeah, they seriously need to bring it back.
Oh yeah, I've seen that anime. One of my favorites. It's so good.
It's so good.
What was I saying? Oh, like the original idea of like Swords and Roses was built on that 4-panel comic.
A 4-panel joke comic.
4-panel joke comic
that we
I
read
found.
and died laughing at.
I found it and I was like, this is amazing. And it's just like a 4-panel silly comic about like a little princess who's trapped in a tower, and the dragon, it like looks over and like at the night that comes, and the princess like pokes the dragon and is like, well, is he cute? And the dragon's like, no, he's old and he's mean. And the princess is like, forget it. And then the dragon's like, foolish mortal, and then like it, like basically destroys the knight. And she's like, don't worry, princess, I got you. Like, and so the dragon is like super buddy with the princess, and that was it. That was the inspiration.
Yep.
For Swords and Roses.
That was what got our thought process started, and we started having conversations about like, that's a hilarious idea. Wouldn't it be funny if? And then we just went from there. We started generating ideas. And by the time we were done with like that 6-hour conversation, we were like, actually, I think we're onto something.
Yeah. So funny fact is like, Swords and Roses. The first webcomic I was gonna make was not Swords and Roses. This is actually the second one. The first one I was gonna make was like a slice of life comic, and I made the first 3 chapters, and then I did this silly little sketch illustration of the old original thumbnail for Swords and Roses, and I showed it to you and a couple of friends, and everyone was like, oh my gosh, this is so fun. This idea of like, it's a romance between like the princess and the dragon, and that like the princes suck and the dragon's the best, and he's like her wingman. This is so compelling. And then I was like, oh. So I threw that whole comic away and started working on this instead.
Yep. And there was born Swords and Roses.
And there was Swords and Roses. So I hope that answers your question. So
Yeah, we like questions, so if anyone who's watching us wants to ask, we would love to answer.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
And since
creating
there's
the
not a ton of
ice
people,
here,
you're free to ask. And there's not a billion people with the chat zooming by at 1,000,000 miles an hour right now.
True.
So.
Yeah, that makes it easier. When I was doing these icicles, by the way, I had no idea what I was gonna do. I just wrote them into the script because, like, casting ice was something that was in said RPG that will not be named, and so I put it in. I had no idea how I was going to do this. I went through so many brushes and effects and so much stuff to try and find something that I felt like worked. It was way too much work.
Hey, Nightmare.
Hello, Nightmare.
Welcome in.
Also, I redid the shield on this probably like 5 times to make sure like you could still see Alder's face, but still get the idea that it was a shield. This is a pain in the butt. Are you planning to continue that slice of life comic? Not right now, no. I can tell you about it if you're curious. It was called More Human Every Day. And it was the idea that there was like a super advanced AI robot that was trying to learn about humanity. And she was like some sort of secret government project. And in order to teach her about like the human world, They hire, so the the college student that is like the professor that made her, basically the guy that created her in the first place, the AI, his best friend's son, like, is like a troublemaker. He like kind of doesn't really do his college work. He tries to get out of everything. And so like as a win-win, they're like, well, we can teach her about like the real world with someone that's about like looks like her age and is like a troublemaker, so we can like put him on the straight path or whatever. And so it was like a little slice of life of the two of them where he like teaches her about like what it means to be human, so that way like an AI can understand, you know, like who we are as people, like the faults that we make and the decisions we make, and like at the same time like also
Maybe
her messing up a bunch.
Personal, get a little personal growth in there.
Yeah. And it was also a romance as well. So it was like a slice of life romance.
It was a cool concept, but I think the hook would have taken too long to try to set up.
I don't have any problem with it. It's just I enjoyed this more. Yeah. Because this gave me the action that the other didn't. And I like action scenes.
Exactly. Not only that, but I mean, I feel like overall when like we weighed the two ideas against each other, I just think personally I felt that this one had a much better premise in general. Not that the other one was bad.
It has a cleaner hook too.
Yeah,
like,
exactly. Not
it's
that
the princess in the tower, guarded by a dragon, turned on its head. Like it's easier to describe than the other one is, which is like an AI learns about humanity through a college flunky.
Right.
I mean, I guess you could sort of say it like quick, but yeah, I like this one, so I'm happy we went this way. Also, I love this panel. This panel turned out so good. Yep. Why is there like bright yellow light here? Because it looks nice. Sometimes you just have to paint prettiness. And it looks pretty.
Yep. Yeah, so something about Arrow, for anyone who's curious, Arrow has like a billion stories in her head. If you gave her any prompt on the spot, she could probably come up with a compelling story within like 10 minutes. But the problem is like, obviously comics and stories and visual storytelling takes a lot of time and effort. We've already been doing this for a year and a half, almost 2 years, and we're only this far in. So because of that, we really have to pick and choose what we feel like, you know, has the best chance of being successful or finding an audience. So it's tricky. You can't do
also
everything you want to do. Huh?
I said also hi, Woody.
Oh. Hey, Woody.
I love me a dirty hook. Get out of here.
Woody, you're a dirty hook.
Also, I love this panel. I know it's like a super random. Again, if you weren't here earlier, I love like these random in-between panels that I just fall in love with. This is one of them. I know that there's like the big pretty panels, but it's always these little ones, like this panel. I love this panel. I don't know. There's something about like raw emotional panels, or when I like, I don't know, really nail like a really complicated pose and it looks very clean, that I get just super jazzed about. Oh hey, it's my rack focus again.
Well, if it isn't your rack focus.
I like a good rack focus. Was there anything you wanted to say about this chapter before we move into the next one?
Not that I can think of. I personally like the I like action sequences that have a little bit of subtext to the conflict.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really tricky to pull off. A lot of webtoons or anime or just stuff in general, sometimes like the action is just very one-dimensional, where it's like two people beating each other up really hard, and it's like, sure, that's fun for like maybe spectacle for a very short amount of time, but that quickly like burns out and gets boring. And the fact that there's a bit more of an evolution to the conflict, you know, there's the fact that like there's two different strategies at play here, you know, between Alder and the vampire. I think that I personally find that more compelling.
Yeah, I like fight scenes that, like, I think Monty was the one that said this, fight scenes are like a dance.
Yeah,
it needs to progress in a similar fashion, and that's something that I really liked about writing this sequence. Was like, first they start off like the vampire is like chastising Alder and trying to get him to talk, and then the two of them like kind of like he tries to like one up Alder, and Alder calls him out on it, and then he gets him into the blood fury, and then they run through the hallway, and then there's the dragon part. Well, there's a part with Blue, and then the dragon part. It's just, I like evolving fights. I don't like it when it's just stagnant spectacle. I get bored of that sort of thing personally.
Yeah, well, it's like turning music up to 11, been blasting it. It's like, okay, it's fun for like 10 minutes, but then your hearing adjusts to the increased volume, and then that's it, right? It's just loud.
Yeah.
It's just the same tone the entire time. With variants, like if you look at any good plot or band or music composition, like everything has variation to it, and it evolves and changes as the thing, whatever it is, progresses from beginning to end, so that there's variation, that there's it keeps people's interest more. So hey,
Woody ask?
Woody was asking stuff.
Yeah. What was the most influential in improving your art from chapter 1? I got better. Let me think. Most influential.
I mean, I can think of a few things that probably affected you, but I'm curious what your thoughts are as the actual artist.
I think like the biggest thing was like trying to figure out ways to make the art match what was in my head better. And so to do that, I redid the pipeline to create Swords and Roses. I think 4 times, like pretty drastically each time. That like it was an intentional choice, that I was like, I like this part, but I don't like this part, or this takes too long and I don't want to like waste my time on it or whatever. So I think that was like a big part in how it's become such a like better looking comic, as well as just like cleaner too, I think. I got better reference. I started like animating more for the reference. But I think the big thing was that like I was trying to find a workflow that worked for me, and I feel like that's a big thing that a lot of Webtoons artists, at least that I talk to, find one way to do things and just keep doing it forever. And I was never afraid to like completely throw out how I was doing something and do it completely differently to see if it was better, faster.
Yeah. Dude,
whatever.
There were times where you're like, hey, Torin, I'm going to redo my entire workflow again. I'm like, why? You've already redone it 3 times. And you're like, no, I got this. I think I could do this better. I'm like, all right, let's do it. So, but I don't know, as someone from the outside, I would say that like, well, I mean, like the comic went through, like from my point of view, what I was focusing on with the 3D, there were a couple of evolutions that happened with how we approached doing things. So like for one, we had a change with the software that we were using. It updated to this newest version, and we started using that instead. And it brought in a massive amount of changes with what we could do in a scene and how it rendered in like with the 3D. Which might not...
the environments got so much prettier.
Yeah, the environments got prettier. The way that we lit reference in the scene, and then how Arrow was able to interpret that better looking reference into her 2D art that she was doing, on her own. Like it got more sophisticated. Like there was more information for her to work with that I was able to hand her from changing things like software and how we approach stuff. So I think that, I mean, that's part of it. The other part of it is like Arrow just does like this is a massive amount of work, and it's just drawing constantly for like a year and a half is like a big is a big part of it. Just the constant repetition,
Yeah.
You
draw anything this many times, you get better at it.
Exactly. Yeah. So software was some of it, but obviously it was just a lot of Arrow's hard work. And I agree with exactly what she said earlier. Is like, she completely reinvented how she approached it. To reiterate this, right? So we come from like an animation background where like we were trained with the mindset that maybe we were going to be working in a studio someday, right? Well, in a studio, you don't do everything yourself. You work in a pipeline on an assembly line where you do one part of the art of the final product, right? And so we very much operate now as like with that mentality when we create stuff, because we're collaborating together. So like, you know, Arrow literally reinvented what's called a pipeline, or the way that she assembles the art, the different passes that she does, like going through and doing all the references set up in one pass, and then she goes back to the beginning of the chapter and then does all the ink and drawing in one pass, and it goes back and then it does all the flat paints and then all the shading and coloring, and then like, you know, post-processing effects, and then like just all this stuff, right? Pass after pass after pass after pass. And then how she approached each one of those, she would change and update and evolve as she learned more.
It's true. Also, I agree with Nightmare. I love her trust in him by not moving.
Yeah, right.
I that's like a big part of this that I think I'm glad you picked up on, and a lot of other readers commented on as well, is the fact that like Rose doesn't move. Like, she absolutely like sweats bullets, but like trusts him the entire time. And it's, you know, like we were saying earlier, probably before you guys got in here, was like their friendship is like impacts so many of their decisions, and it's cool when you get to see it like very visceral.
Yeah.
Anything you wanted to say about this chapter before we move into the next one?
I mean, I thought it was a pretty brilliant play where Alder figured out that he could probably make him go blood crazy by feeding him a chunk of his blood at the cost of his own stamina, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And that would keep him, because if he could make him blood frenzy and focus on him, he could get him outside. And if he could get him outside, he could transform, and if he could transform, he would win.
Right. Yeah, we didn't really talk about this. We talked about this the other day, just the two of us, but like this fight is, the vampire has a like high statistical advantage over Alder if you were to look at them as like video game characters. Like Alder's level is nowhere near as high as the vampire's is at this point in the fight. And we were talking about this, that like the, you know, again referring to RPG game mechanics, like transforming into a dragon definitely gave him so much more of an advantage to win.
Yeah.
So getting him outside was, you know, a brilliant play on his part.
Right, exactly. Like, you know, realistically, right, if Alder would have known that this was like a vampire, right?
Yeah,
he never would have.
Sorcerer, caster, vampire too. Not
Yeah,
just if it's
he
standard.
never would have challenged this type of, you know, opponent with just basically just him, right? He would have went and, you know, like his old group of, you know, 4 or 5 people would have been required to take something like this down together as a whole group. That's just how, you know, how formidable this opponent is. So
Immortality will do that to you.
the immortality, you know, it's a real concern. You can't win. Like there's no such thing as attrition. You know, the vampire wins every time.
Yeah. I love this shot too. Like, it's such a creepy, like, until now you've seen the lair and you're like, okay, there's like chairs and like tables, and obviously this is underground, but it's like not that bad. And then you see this room and you're like,
there are bones on the floor.
there are bones on the floor. There's like cadavers in some of these cages, and like it's a giant metal box, dude. This place sucks. I don't know. I love that shot, just being like, wow.
Do you think the vampire gets monthly subscriptions to Vampire Weekly or Vampire Monthly? How to decorate your cave.
Right? He got some serious inspiration for making this place kind of a hellhole. But yeah, good questions, guys. Thanks for asking. We love these. It was so fun having Leoric in here. Like, designing him. Obviously, I made his grandson first, Lawrence.
Yep.
And so trying to, like, you know, make them like him, an old, wise version of like his grandson. I don't know. It's fun. I wanted to give him that sort of same like warmth. But obviously, he's been trapped in a cave for like over a week, so he has to look pretty disheveled too.
I think at this point it's been closer to 2 weeks.
Yeah, that's true.
given the travel time and like how long it took to get to this point.
To
It's been a
find
couple
him?
of weeks.
Yeah.
I love how like he's like rattling off important information, and she's like, yeah, sure. I'm trying to find this like key, right?
Right?
Searching
He's-
around.
He's like, how'd you do with the hellhounds? And she's like, what, you mean the bears? Where's this key? Like, she's not even, like, paying attention. And then he's like, oh, yeah, you did get my coded message. And she's like, hold up.
Wait a minute.
There was a coded message, which, shout out to that one. Okay, we have to go. I have to do this. I have to go and find. This is important. This is imperative. I need to find who it was that called this forever ago. There's someone in the comment section that said that it was a note. Golden Hawk 5002. The letter was totally a code. He skipped the punctuation to make the guy suspicious, and the odd capital letters was a secret sentence. You were right.
You were right.
You were right all along. So
Applause.
Congratulations, big applause. You figured it out.
You figured it out.
20 chapters
yeah,
before.
20 something chapters beforehand.
So yeah, I had to call that out. Olive said, I honestly love the realistic emotions portrayed by every character. It makes the story a lot more relatable and real. Thank you. I like to think like how they're processing the information that they know or don't know. I love getting inside characters' heads. It's probably my favorite part of writing. I like it arguably more than the plot, even though the plot is also fun. I love thinking about how different characters have different like world views and how they see the world differently based off of, you know, how they were raised, who they are as a person, their personality traits, you know, strengths, weaknesses. I like that sort of stuff. I find it fascinating. So like creating characters that think on their own and come to separate conclusions independently is probably one of my favorite parts of writing. But yeah,
it's really tricky because like, you know, when you're writing and getting inside characters' heads, you know, it's like there's the conclusion you as the author would come to if you were in the situation, but then there's the conclusions that the characters would come to based on their experience and knowledge.
correct.
And it's really tricky to separate those sometimes.
Never letting your meta knowledge impact like the character's decisions. Or the other thing that bothers me is you never let the plot impact the character's decisions either. In that way that I mean that like the characters should make decisions based on their knowledge of the plot, not the plot needs this to happen so the characters are going to do it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like there's nothing I hate more than it's like, no, this character would never do this, but they necessitate it for the sake of the plot, so they're going to do it.
Well,
I
but
hate that so much.
But because you're so consistent with that, someone in the comments picked up on the fact that Alder was acting weird during the one scene where he kissed her on the head right before this.
Oh, where it's blue?
Yeah, where it was blue.
Yeah, no, and that made me so happy that people were picking that up and being like, what is wrong with Alder? And people being like, that's not Alder, something's up. Because I was like, that, you know, yeah, it shouldn't be Alder. Like, it's not Alder.
You know, it's really funny is, you know, we had that conversation when that chapter came out. There were 4 definitive clues that things were wrong. So Blue, disguised as Alder, called Rose Blondie. Blue pulled out the wrong knives out of.
She pulled out her knives
out of the bag.
Yeah.
Personality was completely different. And lastly,
she calls her Blondie.
Yeah. Well, no, I already said that one at the beginning.
Oh, okay.
The last one is that the tail wasn't wrapping around her.
Oh yeah, no one mentioned that either. In the illustration, his tail
the tail
is
was
down.
like limp on the ground.
That was always the big thing that I always keep in mind when I'm working on Alder is the tail never lies.
The tail
never lies. So like when she kisses him on the cheek from the bear thing, he wraps his tail around her. When she wakes up in the morning and comes downstairs, his tail like leans towards her. Like his tail is his tail. And so the fact that his tail isn't wrapped around her, like that's not Alder. There's no way. So yeah, like he calls her Blondie. He pulls out these are Blue's knives.
Those are Blue's knives.
Yeah. there's a bunch of fun things. That and Rose is blushing like absolute crazy, which she's never blushed this hard at Alder before. There's just a lot of things that I tried to hide, like
In
good
plain
hints
sight.
in there. Yeah.
Yep.
For everyone to pick up on. Oh, here's the bears.
Yep. So back to where we were.
Yeah, glamour
Yeah,
bears or
bears.
hellhounds.
Yep.
I loved working with these dogs though. They turned out really well. Animating them was actually a lot of fun. I was kind of afraid at first, but I really did have a good time animating the dogs. Oh, here's the flashback thing,
Yeah. Internal trauma.
right? I
Yeah.
mean, yeah,
Yeah.
you would be traumatized too, you know?
Probably, yeah.
Then you'll ultimately leave me behind, forced to move on alone with nothing left but the memories of you. I love that line so much. When I wrote this part, because I write the entire thing as a book first, and then I take the book version and make it a like layout. So I don't write a script. I took a screenwriting class in university, and I still don't write like like a script. I write it as a book. And this was in the book, and I loved these lines so much that I had to figure out how to put them in here, just because I thought they were so poetic, but also like on the nose for like how she feels about it. Like she's alone, and no one else is. You know what I mean? Like the memories of them is what's impacting her every day. And then the cool like light show. Someone commented, I don't remember who it was. We'll have to look. That it's cool that Alder brings the color back into her memories.
Yeah.
And I'm glad someone commented on that because, yeah, that was an intentional choice.
Tell you, man, visual storytelling, you know?
These panels, I went to Torin and I was like, hey, can you take screenshots of your favorite panels of the two of them throughout the entire season? He's like, sure, why? I'm like, I can't tell you. Just, can you do that and send them to me? So he picked these out and I would just put them in because I wanted to know which ones he remembered that he thought was cool. Just so that way it wasn't always just me, you know? That someone else's memories of the two of them got put in there, which I think was fun. And then there's this panel.
The hero shot.
I love this shot. This was an idea of a shot I had in my head from like, I don't know, episode 10, I think, is when I started writing Pentagale. Like that's how long this panel has been in my head. And it was so fun to make it actually exist. I love this shot for her.
You know, for anyone who's still in the chat, kind of curious, you know, what some of your favorite moments were, you know, that would stand out to you guys.
Yeah, if you guys have favorite panels or moments throughout the finale, feel free to let us know.
I like the fact that, like, we finally get a moment where Rose gets a weapon in her hand and is able to stand, you know, be like, you know what, screw it, I'm gonna try to do this.
She gets her moment to shine. I know a lot of people were really excited to see her, like, have a moment.
A lot of good action. That's a good, you know, actually I forgot about that, where she uses Alder as like reference, like how to fight a stronger opponent. That's cool. Stupid flavy dogs.
She might be trying to be a badass, but she's still relatable AF. Definitely
yeah.
Rose coming into her own, realizing she can do it. Absolutely. Seeing her step up and actually grab the sword and face a bit of her fears is a really cool part of this finale.
Yeah, absolutely.
Ambrosia gets like the substance of like character development through the finale, where Alder gets the flash of like dragon fire and flying in the sky. Yeah, he gets the spectacle. Rose gets the heart. Ah, here you go. Here's your stupid flamey dogs line. Stupid flamey hounds. He's just like, wait. Wait, what? Peak moment.
You know, hold up, go back for a second.
Yeah.
You know, I like this moment with Leoric because obviously, you know, Arrow and I are privy to more information. But what I like about this is it hints that Leoric has a history with Ambrosia's mom. And there's more to him than just surface level stuff so far.
Yeah, he and her mom were close. Yep. You at least know. And now he's involved enough with Ambrosia to see her occasionally in the tower, so
right.
It's important.
Yeah.
I love this shot. I know it's another random side panel that I just love, but there it is. That's one of them. I just think they just like both look so ominous, but they're completely different poses, which I think is, I don't know, cool. I wish I had the unblurry version of these two panels. These two panels, their poses look so good. I was so proud of them when I drew them. I was like, these poses are clean, they have great silhouette, great line of action, and then I had to ruin them by blurring them. I mean, they look great, but like, I was kind of sad. I think maybe Woody said this earlier, was the like not expecting Rose to win this.
Oh, yeah.
I'm curious if anybody else shared that sentiment in the chat. If you guys thought Rose was going to, like, if you thought Alder was going to come back and save her, or if you thought she was actually gonna be able to succeed on her own. I'm kind of curious what you guys thought. Oh, here's one of your favorite parts, Torin.
Dude, I love this moment where
the eye.
Yeah. Well, because like again, you know, kind of
and
like
the
that
sword
earlier
throw,
comment I said, you know, earlier in the stream, where it's like, you know, I think one of the things that a lot of webcomics struggle with is that they turn up the action and the spectacle to 11, and then they never dial it back, right? Whereas I feel like your approach to storytelling is that you go in waves of excitement, so that when moments like this happen, they hit a bit harder, you know, from the contrast.
Yeah.
And I love this moment, how Ambrosia
like
just has this moment of clarity where she just like she realizes she can use something to her advantage, grabs it, and then just instinctually like does the thing, and it works, you know?
Yeah, it feels good. I knew she would succeed. Nikki gets the succeed button. You were right. She did it.
You get the badge.
Yeah, the badge.
True. I mean, she is kind of the one of the two main characters, so there is that.
At first I did, but as she reached for the dagger, I felt she had it.
That's fair.
I love this panel. She like the part that you were talking about where like she instinctually grabs a knife, whips it, and nails the dog, and then she's like, wow, how the heck did that work? Like, Rose certainly held her own and kept level-headed, but was confused why doggos didn't want to bite and go feral. So the vampire went feral because of the bloodlust, right? It changed his eye color. I think that's all I can say at this point.
The doggos are not the same species. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
They don't require the same thing that the vampire does, and they don't operate. They're not like biologically. They're not operating the same way as monsters. They got a different thing going on with them.
Correct. That's a good way to put it.
They're not stupid dogs by any means, but they are basically creatures. You know, I wouldn't say that they're like smart, you know, intelligent beings, but they've got smart pack tactic instincts. D&D reference.
Get out of here. We don't say the word that cannot be said, sir. But yeah, they do have pack tactics. So that's why they like
flank.
Yeah, they flank her and they kind of corral her in a couple of scenes. And then they both like tack one right after the other. So yeah, they do have technically pack tactics. I love this shot. This whole sequence was, again, since like chapter 10 when I first started writing Penny Gale, was Rose on the ground being like mauled by a dog reaching for the sword right out of her reach. I don't know. This was just a sequence that I had in my head that I wanted her to not rely on the sword, right? Like, learn what Alder told her, where it's like she was taught how to classically fight, right? Classically sword fight and trained, but like she said, or like Alder said to her, as an adventurer, you're fighting in the wild. Like, nothing is off limits. Like, you have to win, you have to live. And so you use any advantage that you can. And so I feel like this was like a great way for her to like actually learn that.
In practicality.
Was not relying on the sword and was instead looking around and using her. Like, she's, you know, Ambrosia's not dumb. She's book smart. She's very like intelligent. She came up with the plan to like get herself fake charmed and all of that. So having her think outside of like A, B, C, and instead, you know, think outside the box was something that I wanted from her from the beginning.
Yeah. It's a small step. It's not the only thing that, you know, it's
No,
one
she has
step
a
on the
long
path.
way to grow, but
Yeah.
I like how Alder grabs the dude around the neck and just throws him right into like a post.
Yeah.
Like, you can tell, like, he walks into the first part of the fight, he grabs a knife, chucks it at the dude's forehead. Like, this part, he just grabs him, throws him right at the wall. He's like, I know you'll live. Like, this won't mean anything to you. You know what I mean?
Right.
Also, Alder has mentioned multiple times that he hates tiny spaces. Right? During the campfire scene. Do you remember that?
Yeah, exactly.
Where he tells her, like, at least we're outside. And she looks at him like he's crazy. And she's like, and he goes, well, because if we're outside, then I could just be a dragon and barbecue it. Like, you know.
Yep, exactly.
Poor guy, stuck in a tiny hallway.
So close.
Right? I love the callback to this, because this was in the setup. Remember?
Yeah, the bottle of iron shavings that are good against fey creatures.
Yeah, and then I had to take this 3D bottle and then crack it just on my own 2D and make it look the same.
In the same volume, same shape.
Yeah, I thought I did a great job, because all of this is like 2D, me guessing what this bottle looks like when cracked, because we didn't have a cracked version of the bottle.
Breaking stuff in 3D takes a lot of time, okay, man? So typically in 3D, you just have to model the outside of an object, but when you break something apart, then you have to model the inside of the object too, and along the edges that it's cracked, and it gets really painful really quickly. So, you know. Shout out to all the artists that have to do like destruction and debris. It's way harder than you think it is.
Oh, I like this panel too. He's like grabbing his horns. How rude, you know?
Right?
Really.
Yeah, those are connected to his head, man. It'd be like someone latching onto your ears to take a piggyback ride. Right?
Someone just grabs your face and like turns your head with it. It's just rude. This is just rude. No class.
Exactly.
Okay, how happy were you all to have Blue here in the finale? Did you guys think that she wasn't going to be in here? Because I know when I first told Torin about the finale, he was like, wait, is Blue going to be in there? And I was like, yeah. Having her in here was really fun. I hope you guys enjoyed her stepping in, even though she said she didn't want to fight, you know?
Mm-hmm.
She's got trauma, but she's willing to at least
Dude,
look at her
everyone
trauma.
in this, I just realized, does everyone in this story have trauma?
Everyone has trauma. Everyone always has trauma. It's just life.
It's true.
But yeah, they all have trauma. Good characters have trauma. I love this shot. This is so, like, the entire time you're like, she's gonna get her hand on it. She's gonna get her hand on it. And then the dog's like,
Pushes
no.
against her and slides her across the floor.
Yep.
Yeah.
Outplayed by a dog.
Stupid flamey doggo.
Stupid flamey hound. Yeah, here's the part I was talking about. Thinking outside the box.
I like this panel a lot because I think you really sold the impact.
Thank you. I messed with this panel a lot to make sure it did sell the impact. Plus, this was fun to do, like the swatter.
I love. Hold up. So we have this panel, and like what? 10 chapters, a couple chapters before this, there were like cute moments of them like flirting with each other. Like the contrast here is great.
It's an action romance. What do you want from me?
Oh, I'm not complaining.
This is what y'all want. You want to see the cool action, and you want to see the romance, right? Like this is what we're here for. And the mystery, I would assume too. I love this shot. This is her like hero shot.
Yeah. Victory is mine. I'm still alive.
Yeah. You go, girl. This is the audience. He is us. Smiling at her.
I love this. This is like the Jaws music starts playing right now.
Donna, Donna, Donna. Donna, 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 Donna.
Yeah, basically.
The whole reason that this shot even ended up being here was so that way you knew that it was the one that she threw the sword at, not the one that she like completely annihilated with a rock. Cause like this, he's so tiny in the frame that on a phone I was afraid you wouldn't be able to see it. So I had to put a panel in of just the dog being like, this is this one, not the other one. There are two, this is this one.
That'll teach you, Rose. Always make sure to double tap.
I love the shadow too.
Yeah.
This was fun to do. With the like teeth.
Wasn't there a funny story how you ended up getting this flash effect out of the 3D?
Yeah, I can talk about that.
Yeah, do it. Tell them. Yeah, I think it's hilarious.
So obviously I needed the cavern to like explode with light. And I did it the first time and I rendered it just with the light and no with the blur. And it looked so boring and I was like, this is kind of lame. So then I tried like just doing multiple different camera angles of the same shot and then rendering all of them hoping that like one of the camera angles would really sell it. Well, what happened is I accidentally keyed the camera to like, normally how I key the camera, for those of you guys that don't know animation, this is called step keying, where basically instead of like taking the camera and like saying it goes from A to B during like this section of space, I basically say the camera just automatically pops from one to the other. Like there's no movement technically of the camera like sliding across the screen, right? It's like over there and then it's immediately over here. Like it doesn't actually animate between the two.
Yeah, it's the difference between like throwing a ball through the air versus the ball teleporting from point A to point B.
Yeah, so that's normally how I like key the camera. Well,
normally she does the teleport method.
Right, and not the actually like it goes anywhere, like throwing the ball method. So I thought I keyed it correctly and I didn't. I accidentally left a couple of frames in between the two camera shots, and this panel got rendered as the camera is basically being a ball teleported between two shots. And I looked at it and I was like, oh wow, this looks perfect. And I just put it in there.
Yeah, so basically, as the camera was sliding from point A to point B instead of teleporting, it rendered this shot, and Arrow was like, "Oh, all right then."
I thought it looked great, and so I just put it in there. Like, it was not intentional at all. I just miskeyed the camera, and it looked really cool. So I was like, "Oh, this sells what I'm going for, so we'll just use that." I don't think anybody in the comments was confused about this happening either. So I think it made sense. I think it was good. But yeah, definitely an accident. Happy accidents, right?
It's funny because most accidents in that type of production usually just result in things being broken horribly.
And in this time, it worked out.
More choppy vampire.
More choppy vampire. Alder's face in this panel just cracks me up.
I love how like the audience and him are both catching up to what's happening at the moment.
Right.
And then he looks across the river and he's like, you could have done the classic anime thing where like he asks Blue to explain how she's doing this.
Well, he does.
Well,
He
yeah.
asks her, "How are you?" And she's just like,
no,
"Stop being stupid."
Stop monologuing and transform.
No time for monologues. This is not an anime. Things are happening. This panel was a highlight of this.
Didn't you
finale.
do a couple different versions of this one?
I did. Yeah, I didn't know what I wanted to do for his chest. I tried a bunch of different emblems and stuff, and then I ended up using the illustration that I did as like testing concept art when I was learning anatomy more for Alder, and I was practicing like severe camera angles. I did that shirtless shot of him with the dragon logo on his chest with the magic around his arms. And I drew a similar design to this, and I really liked it. So I put it in here and then just kind of burned it in. And yeah, and I really liked it, so I kept it.
Yeah. If anyone's curious, you can follow Arrow on Instagram for that particular piece of art.
Yeah. I know a couple of people mentioned that they were super excited to see Alder as a dragon again. So I'm happy that we got to have Dragon Alder again. I was nervous to draw him though, because I haven't drawn him in so long, but again, he turned out really well.
Yeah, exactly. I love how basically at this point, right, this vampire is now basically the equivalent of a rabid, like mosquito that's like, here, let me I'm gonna aggressively try to latch onto you.
More like a rat, but sure, similar kind of idea.
Yeah. That's a fair point. Like a rabies infested rat that wants to just latch onto you and bite.
Exactly.
Never piss off a Dragonite.
Right.
Yeah, never piss off the person walking around that is equivalent to a magical nuclear bomb.
Pretty much. With teeth.
With teeth. And fire breath that literally will burn your house down if you're not careful.
I mean, and he's not a small dragon either.
No.
Like, I feel like he's not like How to Train Your Dragon sized. Like, he's huge.
He's pretty big, yeah. I mean, he's what I would consider to be like classic size dragon. You could easily ride that dragon.
Oh, easily, yeah. I mean, he can easily eat you. Like,
right,
you know what I mean? Like, you fit into his mouth just fine.
I guess a popular example that many people would understand is like he's about the size of the dragons from Game of Thrones.
Mm-hmm.
Well, maybe not like the monster-sized dragons.
Not the huge ones.
Yeah, but like the if people have seen it, they know what I'm talking about.
So. Like someone commented, like, he's playing tennis.
Right. Well, the guy because the vampire's still out of his mind. He doesn't understand anything. Then like jump straight at him. You know,
Right.
so Alder's literally playing ping pong with him at this point, trying to get him to like get him away from him so he can like hit him with with fire breath.
Right, like that.
Exactly. It's almost like what Alder's trying to accomplish and how the vampire is behaving makes perfect sense.
Someone commented that Dragon Alder looks so much like Alder, and that made me so happy. What do you guys think? Does Dragon Alder just look like Alder? Because like someone said that, and it made me so happy to hear that. I was like, I'm glad he still somehow looks like himself. I don't know how, but I appreciated it. Oh, the panels that I love too much to blur. Here they are. Definitely. All right, cool.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, you see the resemblance? Okay.
that's good.
I think that's kind of cool. I don't know how the resemblance is there, because obviously he, is completely different looking, but there's a resemblance there that's kind of unmistakable. Yeah, I loved these panels. Like I don't know, just the foreshortening on them. Like the wing coming forward, and then, I don't know. They just turned out so well that I wasn't going to blur them. They're too pretty. This one I blurred. I still liked this one, but I was like, well, you only get 2 out of 3. You gotta pick one.
Getting closer to the end.
Yeah,
Let's do this.
I know. This is the last fight that I had to draw, and it was all dragons flying. Yeah, that's easy.
All aerial camera shots in a real 3D environment, by the way.
Aerial combat. What was I thinking? Yeah, that's a good way to end when you're already burnt out from drawing nothing but action scenes.
Perfect.
I know, right? I love this shot. Again, this is another one of those random in-between shots that I just really like. There it is. That's another one. Your overly sour mood was only ever outmatched by your unparalleled strength. This is such a backhanded compliment. You're just kind of obnoxious to be around, but the only thing that makes you that's more strong than your sour mood is that you're really strong in general. So you know what? Go fight win. Also, I really like this panel too.
Getting How to Train Your Dragon vibes.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, these panels kicked my butt, but they turned out okay.
I think they turned out great, personally. I think you did a good job of making like it feel like he was flying, but you never lost the horizon line. There was always a sense of like which direction like was up and down. I think that went a really long way to making these feel like more grounded and realistic. Not only this, but this 3-panel sequence is just fantastic because you can feel the movement and what's happening.
Yeah, animating these was fun. I like this a lot. Plus having him like twirl in space. I don't know. There was something really cool about these shots. Hard to draw, but I really did like them. I love his claws like reaching for him. I don't know. It's cool. Oh my gosh. Do you remember when I had to paint this scene? This panel right here? I was like, I just wrote into the script that there's like a giant splash. And Torin turns to me and he goes, how are you going to do that in 3D? And I was like, I have no idea. So I didn't. I painted the whole thing. Well, I found a bunch of brushes, put them together, and then painted part of it. It was great.
Hey, we got a question in the chat.
Oh, okay. What goes through your minds when you think about your readers' reactions? Like when I read your guys' comments, or like,
Can you
what
be
do I?
more specific?
Yeah, I'm
Not that we don't want to
entirely
answer the
sure.
question, because we do, but we just like some clarity. Like how we're reacting to people, or how we try to anticipate how people are going to think about something, or what specifically are you asking?
Torin, you're like eating your microphone.
I'm not.
Please.
Sorry.
I feel like
My
you're
bad.
like inside my skull.
My
Can
bad.
you say that again
Sorry,
and
I'll
not
back
make
off.
it sound like you're like, oh my gosh.
My bad.
Sorry
yeah,
for
so
everyone's eardrums, including my own.
I was sorry. My bad. I was saying that can you be more specific? Is it like when we're reading comments, or like how we're anticipating
When
like
you
how
read
people
the
are going to
comments,
react
or
to the
how
story?
do you think your readers will react to a new episode? When I read the comments, literally I like live for the comments. Like the subs are great, but the comments are really like what tell me how it's going. So I love reading through the comments. Probably my favorite part of the entire experience.
Yeah, exactly.
Because hearing what you guys are thinking helps me realize if I'm being clear about like what I do and don't want you guys to have seen, like making sure that I'm putting in enough hints for you guys to guess things, but at the same time not like overtly shoving something down your throat. So I love reading the comments.
Yep.
How I think about readers will react, I never know how readers are going to react. I just write a story that I think is interesting. And I write this story for like I think in my head, like this is something that me as like a teenage like kid would have loved reading this. And so I write for that, I guess. And then I just hope y'all enjoy it. And yeah, that's pretty much it. I honestly don't know how you guys are gonna react. I'm always curious. I think you guys will enjoy certain moments, but I never really know until I get there. And the more chapters I've written, the more I can anticipate. But it's definitely an experience hearing your guys' thoughts. And like sometimes when I paint like a really cute romance panel, I'll be like, oh my gosh, the audience is gonna love this. But then there are other sequences like this that I was like, is this too much action? I hope you guys enjoy this. Like, because it goes from like different locations and the vampire versus the dogs, and then Alder is a dragon, that I hope it's like engaging and interesting as I try and like walk you guys through the dance of this fight. But I never really know until I hear from you guys.
Nightmare said, I love that you respond, makes me smile reading what you say back.
Oh, I'm happy to do so.
Yeah. We really try to take the comments on the comic very seriously, and we try to read what everyone's saying, even if we don't agree with it, right? Which, not that that's a problem 99% of the time, but we still like hearing what you say, and we respect that different people are going to enjoy the comic in different ways, so to speak.
Yeah, I've had some people, which is really interesting to me. Some people are like, I read your story because I love the action and I love the mystery. And I'll have other people that are like, I'm here for the romance. Like, that's why I'm invested. And I think it's really cool to me that somehow this comic has reached both, and that it's something that I try and balance is like the mystery of the plot and the intrigue and the adventure. Because it's really an adventure romance. It's not really an action romance. Because when
there's
you
no
think
adventure tag on Webtoon.
There's no adventure tag on Webtoon, so I'm trapped in putting it in action. Otherwise, it would be an adventure. Because that's how I think of it, is like, if you ever watched the movie, I'm gonna date myself a little bit, Ever After, where it's like, it's a romance, but it's still got like plot and action, or like, super dating myself, if you ever watched like Dragonheart or Lady Hawk, like those old 80s adventure movies, that also, or like Princess Bride. That one's kind of a comedy too, where this isn't really a comedy. But that's what I try and like sew together, is those two aspects, and make it feel like an adventure and plot and mystery, but also like a cute romance that you're invested in the characters in. And it's cool to me to see that like both the audiences seem to be here, and that just warms my heart, that you guys can enjoy both things. I know, it makes me really happy, because I enjoy both things, so it's cool to not be you know, the only one, and that my idea of marrying the two together seems to be working.
And I mean, and again, like I'd point out the fact that like we're a big fan of like, you know, modern stuff. Like we have a deep appreciation for not only current media but like the history of media too. You know, because
Oh, here's one of your favorite panels.
oh yeah, this is easily one of my favorite ones where he's transforming back. I pushed really hard for that one to be part of the promotional material leading up to
This
the
one.
release. I was like,
Yeah.
do this one. She's like, no.
But I love this sequence with him like shaking and like focusing on trying to get enough magic to like cast to swap back. Because like that was the thing that Torin asked me a long time ago, was like, when he gets tired, does he just automatically transform back? And I was like, no, he has to have enough magic to cast to go back. Otherwise, he's just trapped as a dragon. And he goes, oh, yeah, that's kind of equally as annoying. I was like, there you go.
Yeah, we do actually have those conversations where we think and we talk about like the mechanics of like how certain aspects of their abilities and magic work. So I'm a big world builder personally. I like magic systems and world building and fantasy lore and all that stuff.
I always count on you to ask me those questions too.
Yeah.
Be like, how does this work fundamentally? And I'll be like, oh, this is how that should work. You know? I love how terrified he is in this shot.
Yep.
Like, it just shows, like, again, we've had a lot of action, but their, like, relationship is so, like, key, you know? I love this sequence so much.
Dude, that moment where he sees her and she's sitting there, like, shaking.
And he just, like, straight up walks right up to her. She drops the sword, goes up on her tippy toes, and then you get the hug where they just cling to each other. I felt like this was such a good way to, like, end the fight. I don't know. To me, this felt like a good ending.
Well, I mean, but that's the thing, though, is, like, it is a good moment, but, like, personally, in my mind, that's actually overshadowed by this next part where she's, like, stammering and trying to explain to him what happens.
I love this sequence so much. She's just, there were two of them, and then, like, she's so out of it. It's so cute.
And he came back, and I should have assumed.
I assumed I shouldn't have assumed. Her face. Her hands in her face, I knew exactly what I wanted, and I had to, like, act them out to, like, get exactly what I wanted, because I knew exactly what I wanted her to do. Poof.
Huh.
On this panel. Torin asks me, like, hey, you gonna put doggy bits on the wall? I was like, no, that's gross.
You know, Team Fortress 2, giblets everywhere.
No. Just...
No Fallout 4 style, like, you know, no? Okay, alright.
No, we're not putting doggy giblets, so it's like, no, it's just on the wall.
Nightmare says, yeah, this I loved.
Oh. I'm assuming they meant the hug and not the doggy spattering on the wall.
I mean, they could be both.
Or the poof. I don't know. All of those are great parts. I love this. Someone commented about this too. That, like, the second that he knows that she's okay, he's, like, just straight up shuts down.
He's out like a light.
Yeah, and it's true. Like, he's so running on adrenaline that, like, once he knows, like, he's like, oh, wow, I'm glad you're all right. Immediately his body is like, cool, then we're done here. No more adrenaline. Like, we out. Very, like, how your body works, you know?
Yeah, exactly. Well, I mean, yeah, that's absolutely... There are cases where people are like, oh, good, I'm no longer in danger, everything's fine, and they relax for half a second, and then just, you know, on the floor, basically.
Yeah. Well, like, there's always the stories of, like, adrenaline where, like, moms will, like, lift up, like, 2-ton cars to save kids from underneath them.
Yep.
like because of adrenaline, and then afterwards like sleep for like 12 hours straight.
Yeah, exactly. Nightmare said poof and definitely the hug.
So both. Win-win. I was kind of worried at having Rose look at the camera for this part, but I wanted this like fade. So I purposely made her look beyond the camera so it wouldn't be like fourth wall breaking,
Yeah.
you know? But I really wanted this, like the fade as he like passes out. We're getting to the end. We're almost done.
Yeah. We've been streaming for like an hour and a half. We might be able to quickly move through these next couple. But someone commented that they liked how like adventurers get to tell their stories. And I mean, we'll eventually get into it, but it is actually like an important part of the culture, like Alder says, that like, you know, it reinforces this idea of like adventurer culture, that like the towns trust the adventurers to protect them or solve problems, and the you know, the adventurers tell their stories to prove to the towns that they did their job, you know, and the townspeople get entertainment out of it, which is really cool. Which is super important because Alder is a bard. So it all kind of ties together.
I love that Rose gets her nickname, her adventure name.
Yep.
The Golden Rose. Also, I love the reveal where it's like Collie talking and then you see them in the background.
Right.
Just think it's cute. I love this chapter.
Someone else also said like Alder's mission secretly, casually try to get closer to Rose while talking.
I love that this panel. This is the panel where he like leans in towards her.
Yeah.
I love that people commented on this panel. I was like, it's like you all caught that. He wasn't quite as sneaky as he thought he was.
Yeah. But I also like how like there's tie-ins, you know, to like her internal struggle and her internal dialogue, things she's dealing with, you know, weighs on her with her mom and her dad, and you know, keeping her word. So,
right, and this symbolic imagery is coming back again.
Yep. Coming back around.
Yeah, we're gonna see more of that.
Yeah.
I like how Alder doesn't buy that excuse.
Right.
She's like, oh yeah, I was just thinking that I lack a good stage presence. And he's like, yeah, right. He knows she's smart and she's thinking of things she's not saying.
Oh, there's that lean in. Oh.
Oh, this panel. I loved painting this panel. So cute.
This is a long chapter.
This is such a long chapter. The longest one is technically the one right before this, and then I think this is the next longest one.
Yeah, I think I went through and I calculated every unique panel that required a unique drawing that you worked on for these 10 chapters. It was something like 450 or 480 panels or something like that.
Yeah,
it was a lot.
I think it was closer to 500. But yeah.
Well, yeah, if you count like all the panels like that you did total, not like I didn't include like establishing shots that didn't require drawings. I just went through and like, you know, counted up the ones that required, you know, a lot of your 2D work. Like total panel count for the entire set of 10 chapters was closer to 600 total.
The part where
oh my god, yeah.
where Alder lets it slip.
I love how the fact through this entire arc, from the moment they stepped into the town, Alder ever only called her Rose. Never by her full name.
Correct.
Because it's supposed to be a secret that she's, you know, she's traveling incognito.
Well, yeah. I mean, no one's seen her in 5 years, right? Like Blue says. So because of that, and Rose was young. She's obviously
young-ish.
Grown. Yeah, young-ish. So she's grown up a lot in 5 years too. People change. So she doesn't look the same. So like she's not instantaneously recognizable. Like as it is, like royalty stays in the tower, right? It's not like she was like everywhere.
In the castle?
Or in the castle, yeah, excuse me. So like she's not instantaneously recognizable because of that.
Right.
And Alder does such a good job of calling her Rose the entire time, or Princess, and then blows it. Oops.
Oops, indeed, Alder. Oops, indeed. I love this freak out session.
I thought when you called her Princess, it was a pet name.
Well, because like I like the fact that it's drawing back like to the origins, the start of this arc, right? You've spent all this time with them doing adventuring things. Like it kind of slips your mind that like nobody realizes who she really is.
Right. I like how Alder like Uno reverse cards.
Yeah, right.
And then
You want to talk about that arm?
You want to talk about that arm of yours that you've newly acquired? And she's like, no, I don't want to talk about that. He's like, great, well, I don't want to talk about this.
I love her comment where she's like, wait, isn't she supposed to be caught in a tower, like guarded by a, oh gosh, you're the dragon.
That's why Alder doesn't want to talk about it. He's like, yeah, I'm the dragon of the tower. Okay, can we move on, please?
Yeah. Commenting on her magic that she used to barbecue the dog.
Yep. We're still not talking about what it is, though, which is fun.
We're not talking about that.
Nope.
Nope.
The innuendo I left here.
Yeah, right?
So good.
I love how like Kali's like half drunk right now. And is, like starts like getting in this like cheeky like mood of like poking at him.
Yep. They argue like siblings.
They do.
Like how she just grabs his shirt and he's like, can you not? This part, no one has commented on either.
No,
oh wait, I think someone did. I think someone did comment and say, because of your stupid thing, like what's Alder's thing? So yeah, this is important. This conversation that's happening right now between them is important. But I won't say more.
Yeah, quickly move on to something else. Hey
The
guys,
funny
look over
thing
there.
is
Literally anything else.
I've brought up this before though, in previous chapters. This same, what they're talking about.
Yeah.
Like we were saying earlier, how I drag ideas through the story.
Yeah, through line threads.
Yeah.
They're important.
Oh, then there's this part.
Yeah.
He just completely like disrails that conversation and talks about this.
Okay. I love she's like, I mean, granted, she's trying to make legitimate excuses, but excuses nonetheless.
She gets out of splash range so that way she can make fun of him.
Yeah. She gotta get out of the splash zone.
Before she pokes at him and then he just like fucking explodes like he always does. Alder, you're a little predictable, my guy. And then Rose is like, did I miss something? Grumpy Alder.
And I love how, like, even though technically you've done the whole reveal with Blue that, like, you know, Ambrosia's the princess, Blue still is using her nickname, which is Blondie.
Yep.
Just the little consistencies there are great.
I love this. So cute. The thing that I also really like is that there's a lot of, like, I don't know, weird connotations around royalty being, like, stuck up and up their own and stuff like that. And I love that Ambrosia always calls her by her name that she introduced herself as, right? Like, she introduced herself as Kali and says, I'm not the Blue Hornet anymore. Like, my name is Kali. And Alder still calls her Kali because of, or still calls her Blue because of history, right? Because they've been buddies for so long. But I love that Rose respects her enough to always use her real name. It's something that's small that I just, like, intentionally always had. Because, like, Rose did the same thing with Lawrence, where she, like, learned his name and, like, made sure to use, like, the proper name because she genuinely, like, cares about people. And I feel like that's something that like royalty a lot of times like
Overlook.
yeah, that like I feel like people always put in there that's like, oh, royals don't care. And like I always wanted it to feel like she genuinely cares, you know?
Yeah.
Unlike Prince What's His Nuts, who literally can't get Rose's name right to save his life, calls her. What all does he call her?
Ampersand, Amnesia,
Princess Amnesia.
a bunch of other names. Yeah.
It's so bad.
Yeah.
So, just like another way that like I want to clarify between like the stuck-up royalty and the non-stuck-up royalty. You know, just the amount of respect for using the right name.
Right.
And that's it. And then obviously the new one that just went out.
Yep. Final chapter.
Yeah, we went over this earlier, so we
Yeah.
can probably skip through this. Just leave it on this illustration.
Right.
I haven't looked at the comments actually. We could look at the comments really quick.
I was poking at people.
Oh, I see.
Well, I wanted to let people know that we were still live streaming, you know, because we
yeah.
started like almost 2 hours ago. So.
Oh wow, yeah, it's been a while. Cool. Yeah. What? Yeah, it's been 2 hours. It's crazy.
Yeah. Anyone that's still with us, if you guys have any comments, questions, anything at
Yeah.
all, we'd love to hear it. We're probably gonna try wrapping up in the next little chunk of time.
Yeah, if you guys have any Q&A questions about any part of season 1 or anything like that, we're so down to give you guys some answers. But thank you guys for joining us for sure. We appreciate it. And more than anything, just glad you guys are enjoying the story.
Yeah, we really appreciate the engagement and coming hanging out with us tonight. Hope you liked a chance to interact with us a little bit in this format.
Any final words for your readers? Thank you guys for being here. You guys mean the world to us. And we love hearing your thoughts. We love reading your comments. We love seeing all the subs and the likes. And those of you that interact with me on Twitter or Instagram, you guys are great. And it really helps the days that the software crashes and deletes like an hour's worth of work, or when I'm struggling with a pose or like a sequence that I can't get right. Sometimes I'll go back and reread some of your comments. So they are the everlasting gift that keeps on giving to help us complete this. Oh, I do, but I don't think you can answer it right now. Oh, see, now you got me. Now you have me curious, Nightmare. I'll tell you if I can't answer it. But I'm curious if you want to ask it. Go ahead. But yeah, did you want to say anything, Tori?
Just that we really appreciate you guys. You know, there's like, I apologize if this sounds a little serious, but like, you know, making art is very, very, very difficult, and both of us have full-time jobs and commitments. And this represents not an insignificant amount of, especially Arrow's time. You know, like I do a lot of the investment up front, but she's the one that really grinds it out every week. And your guys' encouragement and engagement really means a lot. We love to hear what you guys are thinking. You know, we appreciate the respectful criticism, you know, or if there's like confusion or a lack of clarity, because that helps us like zero in on things that like we need to improve on, you know. Like I really do believe that what we're doing is like trying to tell a good story, but like, you know, it's a learning process for us and we're always trying to get better. So, you know, respectful criticism or encouragement, all that is definitely appreciated. But it's been a blast, and we're glad that you guys are enjoying it.
Yeah, I probably put in the equal amount of hours at my real job into this. So this is not an insignificant amount of my time that I pour into this, but I genuinely love it. So glad you found well, thank you. We're glad you found us too. We're happy you're here. The scene with the chains around his wrist. There is a scene with chains around his wrist. Truth. It does exist. I don't know how much more you want me to tell you about that. So yeah, it's a scene. I will tell you
It was on purpose.
That will be a reoccurring thing that you will see more in season 2.
Yep.
The reason that it's in the end of this one is I like to set things up for the future to make everything tie together. So I think that's pretty much all I can say about that. Just like there's some symbolism around Rose that will be prevalent in
And
the next
relevant.
season as well. Yes.
Very relevant.
I like using symbolism for them and their own, whatever that might be. So yeah, expect to see more of it.
I don't think I need to state this blatantly, but I'm going to anyway. I don't know if you guys have noticed, but we're very detail oriented and very intentional, especially Arrow, the way she writes, and she likes to tie things together. Some of our favorite stories in the world are very detailed and, have through threads from the very beginning all the way to the very end, we try to be very intentional about trying to keep track of, all those things. And Arrow's very good at it. I never considered myself a terrible writer, and then I met Arrow, and then I realized that she's way better at it than I am. But yeah, so very much trying to create the type of stories that we enjoy, experiencing ourselves.
Yeah, we curious about the future.
Guess who just showed up?
Oh my
in the
gosh,
chat.
Esteban, we're literally
Esteban.
signing out.
We're about
Sir,
to wind
you are
down.
2 hours late. But yeah, I'm glad you're curious about the I didn't want to end this season just to end. I wanted to make sure that these last 3, especially Best Laid Plans, has the most set up for the next season, so it feels good together. I hope you know that there are plenty of readers that love and enjoy your series. You have our full support on this series and other works you might plan. Oh, thank you so much, Olive. We really appreciate that.
Yeah.
You have a great day / evening as well. And
Yeah.
thank you so much for dropping by. It really, really means the world to us that you guys decide to come by and say hi to us for a little bit. Truly. So thank you for spending your time with us this evening. Or morning, depending on where you are in the world. But you're sorry, Esteban. You're on thin ice. We give him crap because
He's our friend.
He's an IRL friend, so we're allowed to do that. But yeah, I'm glad you're curious about the future. We are excited about where... Honestly, anytime I get to keep writing this story is a good day, so
Yeah.
I'm having a good time.
It goes without saying, but I'm going to do the shameless plug anyway. Many of you as readers may not know this, but Webtoons does not really do us any favors when it comes to promotion. And I'll leave it at that. So the fact that there are readers that are passionate about what we do, we really appreciate that. If you guys feel like it's something that's worth sharing with friends and family, we appreciate that. Because the fact of the matter is that because the platform doesn't really have an algorithm or any way of promoting anything, even when we put something together like this with 10 chapters of content, we still don't get noticed. So you guys literally are the difference when it comes to introducing new people to what we're making.
Yeah, you guys are the only reason we're still here. It's not for
Yeah.
Webtoons. They pretty much ignore that we exist.
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
yeah, we do this for you guys, and because we enjoy it. It's definitely not for the platform because they have shown us no love.
Yep.
But y'all deserve the most success. Thanks, Esteban. Even though you're 2 hours late, I suppose I can take the compliment. I wish I wish there was just better ways to get the comic out in front of other people, but there's no algorithm like YouTube on Webtoons, which stinks. It's just whether an editor sees you and puts you on a list or not. And unfortunately, we're not on any of those lists. So
Yeah.
we just keep doing what we're doing. But seriously, Esteban, thank you for stopping by. I know I'm giving you crap, but appreciate hearing from you, man.
Yeah.
You should hang out with us sometime. We're always around. You can always bother us. You know that. Thanks for letting me know in the comments. Oh, well, good for you for trolling our comments then, Torin. And letting people know to come in. But yeah, I think unless you guys have any other questions, I think we'll call it right there.
Yep.
Esteban, we'll still be in
Discord.
the Discord if you wanted to say hi. We'd love to hear from you and hear your voice. But for the rest of y'all, thank you guys so much for being here. It literally means the world to us. And we'll hopefully see you guys soon in season 2.
Yep, exactly.
All right. Thanks,
everybody.
guys. Have a good night or day, wherever you are.
Bye, guys.